guys, welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to be showing you how to make my juniper beanie. This is a very stretchy, textural, ribbed cable beanie. This is honestly one of my favorite patterns to date. I love the texture. I love the ribbed cabling detail. And this is a slight variation of a cable with a centered pearl. So let me show you the crown. This is what the crown looks like. So if this looks like something you want to knit, stay tuned and I will show you how it's done. Okay, so I've already gone ahead and cast on my 96 stitches. So this brim is a little bit different. It's actually a knit to purl one, and we are going to be knitting through the back loop and purling through the back loop. That's what gives the brim its twisted effect. So I'm going to go in, instead of knitting through the front like you would traditionally, we're going to be knitting and purling through the back of our loop. So you're going to go in through the back of your stitch and knit one, again through the back of our stitch, knit two, bring the working yarn towards the front, and go in. Ordinarily you'd purl through the front, but instead like this way, but we're going to also be purling through the back. So you do this by going in purlwise through the back of the loop. You're going up underneath through the back like this. Purl one. We've purled through the back of the loop, and then you're just going to repeat that until your brim measures the length you desire, which is 4 to 4.5 inches. So again, knit through the back of the first loop, knit through the back of that second loop, looking in towards the front. Go ahead, we're going to go in and purl through the back loop. See if I can show you like this. Purl through back loop. Knit two, knit two, purl one. So can you see how I'm doing that? I'm going through the back, purling through the back. So I'm going up through the back and out the front. Purl one. Okay, so once your brim measures 4 inches in length, you are going to go ahead and switch to your 5mm circular needles, which I've already done. We're going to place our stitch marker, and the first thing that we are going to do is a setup round. So for our setup round, we are going to be knitting 7 and then knitting front and back through the same stitch. So let me show you. First knit 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we've knit 7. And then we are going to knit front and back into the next stitch. So you do this by first knitting through the front as you would normally. But then instead of slipping the stitch off of your left hand needle, you're going to take the tip of your right hand needle, pivot back around, and then go in through the back of that same stitch. Knit it through and slide it off. And so now we've created 2 stitches in 1. So we've just increased by 1 stitch. So we're going to continue that all the way around. So I'll show you one more time. We're going to knit 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then this is going to be another knit front and back. So you're going to go in as if to knit normally. Instead of slipping stitch off of the left hand needle, we're going to pivot around and go in through the back of that same stitch. Right through, drop it off. So, and there you can see we've got 2 stitches in one again. So you're just going to continue knitting 7 from back until you make it all the way back around to the stitch marker, at which point you should have 108 stitches. Okay, so I made it all the way back to the stitch marker. So rounds 1 through 5 are going to be the exact same. We're going to start by creating a rib pattern. So we're going to knit 1, purl 1, and we're going to do that 3 times. So that's 1, knit 1, purl 1, it's 2, knit 1, purl 1, that's 3, and then we are going to knit 1, purl 3, 1, 2, 3, knit 2, 1, 2, purl 1, and knit 2, 1, 2, and purl 3, 1, 2, 3. And if you wanted to separate each of the repeats with a stitch marker, you would go ahead and place the stitch marker now. Maybe I'll add those in later. So then that's it. You're just going to repeat those steps. Okay, so round 6, this is going to be our first cable round. We are going to, again, you can probably start to see our ribbed portion. This ribbing is going to be turned into the cable. So for round 6, we are going to continue following our pattern. This is a knit 1, oops, purl 1, knit 1, purl 1, 3 times, that's 2, knit 1, purl 1, knit 1. Okay, now we are going to purl those next 3 stitches. Purl 1, purl 2, purl 3. Okay, and now we've come to our C5 front with the center purl. So what we're going to do is we're going to see here we've got 2 knits, 1 purl, 2 knits. So I don't know if you can see that. There's a little purl bump here. We're going to be cabling, but keeping this purl running center through our cable. So we're going to do that by first slipping those first 2 knit stitches onto our cabling needle, and then we are going to push those stitches all the way to the far end of our cable needle here. And then using the tip of our cabling needle, we're going to go in knitwise into this purl and slip it off onto our cable needle. And then we are going to hold. So now we've got this first stitch here is the purl stitch. These are the 2 knit stitches. Now we are going to hold these stitches to the front. we are going to knit those next 2 knit stitches from our left hand needle. 1, 2, and now remember this first stitch here on our cabling needle is actually our purl. So we are going to purl this first stitch here off of our cabling needle, and then we're simply going to knit these last 2 stitches off of our cabling needle. 1, 2. So I don't know if you can see it quite yet. As we continue building, you'll be able to see it better, but we've got here 2 knit stitches and a center purl, the 2 knit stitches. So, and then we are going to purl these last 3 stitches. 1, 2, 3, and that's it. We're going to continue that. Okay, so for round 8, we are going to be beginning with a C7 front with a center purl. So before I start, let me just show you here. This is worked over a series of 7 stitches. We've got knit, purl, knit, purl, knit, purl, knit. Okay, so that's what creates this ribbing here. So what we're going to do is first we're going to, it's very similar to the C5 front. We're going to take our cable needle and we're going to be continuing with the knit, purl, knit, purl, knit, purl, knit pattern through our cabling. So we do this by slipping the first 3 stitches onto our right hand needle. That's the first 3 is a knit, purl, and knit. Then what we're going to do, just like before, see this, the next stitch is going to be a purl. We're going to push our needles, our stitches, all the way to the tip of our cabling needle. Just as we did before, we are going to go in knitwise and slip this purl stitch onto our cabling needle. So now we've got purl, knit on our cabling needle. We're going to hold those 4 stitches to the front of our work. And we're going to continue the ribbing pattern. So next we are going to knit, purl, and knit these next 3 stitches from our right hand needle. So we're going to knit, purl, sorry, it's going to be a little bit tricky in the first one, and then knit. Now remember this first stitch. So now we've got a knit, purl, knit, and we're going to continue that pattern with a purl, knit, knit. So I'm going to purl this first stitch off of our cable needle, knit, purl, and knit. And I do recommend knitting through the back loop of that last stitch, and instead of going in through the front like you normally do, go in through the back loop. It just kind of helps to anchor your cable a little bit better, and it's not a big deal though, either way is fine. And so now you've created your first cable, and you can see you've got this ribbed cable forming, and as you knit it further, you'll be able to really see that ribbed cabling come into play. But so now we're back again on top. We've got a knit, purl, knit, purl, knit, purl, knit. All right, so that was the first cable, and then we are going to continue by purling 3, 1, you can kind of see the purl bumps there, 2, 3, and then we've got a knit 2, purl 1, knit 2. So knit 2, purl, knit these last 2 stitches, knit 2, and lastly purl 3. You can see those 3 purl bumps in a row. We're just going to purl those 3 stitches. Okay, and that's it. You're going to be repeating that all the way until you make it all the way back around to the stitch marker. Okay, guys, so by now we are on round 24, our last round in the pattern repeat. And for this round, we are simply going to do cable 7 front with a center purl, purl 3, cable 5 front with a center purl, and then purl 3. So we're going to start out with the cable 7 front. So this is probably going to be familiar to you by now. We're going to slip these first 3 stitches onto our cable needle, and then we're going to slide them all the way towards the end. And then we're going to go in through this purl stitch and slip that purl stitch onto our cabling needle. Okay, and now we are going to continue that ribbed pattern. We're going to knit 1, purl 1, knit 1. Okay, then we're going to pick up our cabling needle and continue on by purling this first stitch, that purl stitch that we had slipped onto our cabling needle. So we're going to go ahead and purl, knit, purl, and knit again. I do like to knit through the back loop in the last stitch of a cable, because it just helps to anchor that cable a little bit better in my opinion, but it's pretty much optional really. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and purl the next 3 stitches. So go in purlwise, purl 1, purl 2, purl 3. Okay, and now we are on our C5 front with the center purl. So we're going to take our cabling needle, and again we're going to go ahead and slip these first 2 stitches onto our cable needle, slide them all the way down the cable needle towards the end, and carefully slip this purl stitch onto our cable needle. Okay, and then we are going to knit the next 2 stitches, 1, 2, and then we are going to purl this center purl, oops, sorry, it's hard to kind of do it in the camera. Okay, and then we're going to knit these next 2 stitches off of the cabling needle. So knit 1 and 2. Again, I like to go in and knit through the back of the loop. Okay, and then lastly we are going to purl 3 stitches. 1, 2, 3. Okay, and then you're just going to repeat those steps until you make it all the way back around to the stitch marker. So by now you can kind of see, I'm just going to go ahead and show you. what our cables look like. So nice and stretchy. And as it stretches, you can see we've got this ribbed cable, and you can see this space in between. That's our center pearl that's running up the center of our cable. So it's nice and consistent pattern in our ribbing. And here in this cable, we've got the center pearl as well. Just a little bit different of a variation. So it's just a regular cable, but with a center pearl, and it looks so pretty. It's really a stretchy kind of pattern. So you want to continue knitting until your hat measures 10.5 inches from the top of your hat all the way down to the bottom of the cast on edge. Let me zoom out a little bit. So you want to continue knitting until your hat measures 10.5 inches from the top of your hat all the way down to the cast on edge. And you can end on rounds 2, 3, 4, 10, 14, 20, 21, or 22. Okay, so like I said, once your hat measures 10.5 inches, or to whatever length you prefer, I will then show you how to decrease. Okay, so I ended on round 2. So in the first round of our decrease, we are going to slip, slip, knit. So let me show you what that looks like. You're going to insert your needle as if to knit, but instead of knitting, you're going to slide it off onto your right hand needle. So you're going to do that once, twice. So slip, slip, and then you are going to place those 2 stitches back onto your left hand needle, and then you are going to knit both of those stitches together through the back loop. Like so. So that was our first slip, slip, knit. We're going to do it again. We are going to go in as if to knit and slip that first stitch and second stitch knitwise. Then we're going to place the stitches on our left hand needle, and if you want to save yourself some time, you can just keep your right needle in those stitches and knit through the back loop. Just saves you a little bit of time. So slip, slip, place those stitches onto the left hand needle, and then knit through the back loop of both of those stitches. So we've done our 3 slip, slip knits. Now we are going to knit 1, purl the next 3 stitches. So bring your working yarn to the front and purl 1, 2, 3, and we are going to again slip, slip, knit. So here we have our C5 front, so we've got the 2 knits, the purl, and the 2 knit stitches. We are going to go in as if to knit, but instead slip those first 2 stitches onto our right hand needle, place those stitches back onto the left hand needle, and knit through the back loop of both of those stitches. Bring your working yarn to the front, purl 1, and then slip, slip, knit again. So you want to make sure that you're slipping each stitch of the slip, slip, knit individually and not together. Then we will knit them both together through the back loop. And now we will purl 3. 1, 2, 3. And that's it. You just repeat those steps until you make it all the way back to the stitch marker. Okay, so we are on round 2 of the decrease. So first we are going to start by doing another slip, slip, knit. So go in as if to knit. Instead of knitting, slip those first 2 stitches onto your right hand needle, place them back onto the left hand needle, and then knit the 2 stitches together through the back loop, just as we did before. Okay, now we're going to do another slip, slip, knit, slip, slip, there we go, and then knit those 2 stitches together through the back loop. Next we will purl 3. 1, 2, 3. We will do another slip, slip, knit, slip, slip, knit, then a knit 1, and purl 3. 1, 2, 3. And you're just going to repeat that until you make it back to the stitch marker. Okay, so for round 3, we are going to slip, slip, knit, purl 1, and purl 2 together. So we're going to start by, again, slipping those first 2 stitches knitwise and knitting those 2 stitches together through the back of the loop. Then we will bring our working yarn to the front and purl 1. And then purl the next 2 stitches together. Those last 2 purl stitches, we're going to purl them together. And that is it. You are simply going to repeat that until you make it back to the stitch marker. And at some point your stitches are going to become too tight. So then you're going to need to switch to a longer cord so you can do the magic loop method, or you may want to switch to double pointed needles, whatever you prefer. So just hang in there. You're in the home stretch, and we're almost done with our decrease. So I'll meet you in the next one for round 4. So this is round 4 of our decrease. And this round is really simple. We're just going to be knitting 1 and purling 2 together all the way around. So I'm going to knit the first stitch, working her to the front, and purl 2 together. That's it. Working on to the front, we are going to knit 1 and then purl 2 together. And so you're going to want to do this all the way around, using whatever decrease method you prefer until you get back to the stitch marker. All right, congratulations. This is the last round of our decrease. So for this round, all we are going to do is knit 2 stitches together the entire round. So first we're going to, these 2 stitches here, we're going to go into both of the stitches knitwise at the same time. You yarn around and knit through, and that is it. Again, we're going to be knitting 2 together, so go into the front, knitwise into the front first and second stitch, all the way around, and then I'm using the magic loop method, so I'm going to turn my work to cord, okay, I'm going to pull this back needle out, front, and we're going to continue knitting 2 together. And that's it, you guys. Okay, so once you're finished with this round, all you have to do is cinch your beanie and weave in your ends, and that is it. And here we have the finished look. We've got this beautiful twisted rib with a high folded brim. these wonderfully stretchy cables. I just absolutely love designing this hat, and I had so much fun with it. If you haven't noticed, I'm really big on texture. So this is definitely good for texture, one of those really intricate designs, but it's honestly not too bad, right, when you break it down step by step. So I hope that you guys knit some of these juniper beanies. If you like my tutorials, if you like my patterns, please like and subscribe. It will go a long way in helping me to grow my channel so that I can continue making these videos for you guys. But until next time, be well, keep it cozy, and I will see you in the next one.